the struggle, boys, fight for the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys, stand against all tyranny. Hang the lance of freedom, boys, high on the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It will grow as we grow, boys, it will be as strong as we. We must cling to our faith, boys, faith in the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free, home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear fear and be a slave. O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kroenke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southeast, west, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Libertytree on YouTube via live stream, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Ultranet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. And for everybody out there, it is 5:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's looking like it's actually sunset out there just about. Clear, bright day today, though. Can't complain. We had lots of sunshine, solar panels, everything's charged up, everything looks happy. That's the most important thing when it comes to this time of year. One way or another, you power up the technology, and we did that today. You actually could have painted a few things. I only put some spray paint on a few items when I was outside just to touch up spots that I missed when I was rolling different, like shovel handles and different weapon handles, or stocks that needed to be touched up or dusted up for other projects. There's always a stack of stuff you do, and always put other things underneath it. This little trick we'll talk about in a minute, but be creative when you're using paint. Remember, take advantage of it. Even what you're painting the stuff on is something you might be using later, and you don't care what color it is, as long as you get layers of paint, you paid for it, might as well get some money out of it, right? Anyway, it is Weapons Wednesday. It is the 18th of November. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020. Old Earth calendar, 2020, Battle for the Republic, Dance of Swords. The betrayal chapters. If you remember how the flag that was being passed on came about, where did it come from? What facility? Yeah, that's right, the camp. The flag survived because it was saved, but it was battle-tattered after that, and that was the symbol that goes from book to book to book to book. So anyway, here we are. It is Weapons Wednesday. A couple things real quick. Again, everybody is now having their epiphanies about ammunition, and so, of course, there is great lamentations, gnashing of teeth, rending of hair. Where do I get the, oh my goodness, it's so expensive. Well, he even mentioned this in Guns and Gadgets, which we played, yesterday? about the ammunition issue. And if you go over to Guns and Gadgets, you can watch it again. We might even play that one more time. We'll see. But what's fascinating about it is just the idea that, you know, the amount that's being paid per round, and the idea, well, I'm not going to pay that amount, but, well, you won't for now. But as we've said, as everything is eaten up, and since you're in a wartime environment, what's going to happen here is that you're going to have to, quote-unquote, pardon the pun, bite the bullet and pick up what you need for, at least to have some of what you need for certain weapons. Let me give you an example. It's 380 auto. There were tons, and there have been quite a few, tons of 380 auto pistols out there and about for really not cheap prices. Very well-built guns. So here we have this modern caliber 380 auto, very, 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 very popular in Europe, also known as 9mm Kurtz there, I would remind you, and been around because it is again, a standard caliber that has been in place since World War I. So here's this round that is in a modern gun, and many modern guns, and all of a sudden you just can't find it. Well, Mark, 9mm, yeah, 9mm, though, quite common by comparison, far more common, actually, as we know, but no fancier or more exotic to produce. And yet, well, 380 auto, a lot of the guns are, to a degree, being parked / kept on the rack because a lot of people did not have the foresight to look down the road and purchase, as I've said a million times, every round you could get your hands on when it's cheap. So that when things like this happen, you can just sit back and smile, if nothing else. And for a lot of people, they now have maybe 100 rounds for that 380 automatic. Now, that's good, because you do have enough to at least get yourself into trouble or, you know, use it as a defense gun. It wouldn't be considered your primary defense gun unless it's maybe all you have, and if that's the case, oh well, again, bite the bullet and work with what you got. If you've got 100 rounds, that's better than throwing rocks. So set your weapon system up accordingly and understand that you're constantly on the eyeball for 380 auto ammo for a reasonable price. $1 a round is not a reasonable price. 380 auto is under $20 a box for 50 rounds for, you know, ever. As I pointed out many times, there were some really great deals with Fiocchi and also with, you know, Silly Billet, you know, Silly Billet. And both of those had ammunition as low as $12.90 a box for 380 auto. Oh, those heady days. Yeah, but that was only last year, okay? So when we talk about the sine wave, or I should say I do, most nobody describes it this way, but when you're dealing with sculpting your armaments, you have to ride with these waves of availability. And this is another reason to have diversified armaments on your shelf, because that way you have a golfing bag to draw clubs from. And that is the best analogy. Combination of I need certain weapons for certain jobs, but I also need to make sure that if something happens, I can still keep defending myself by shooting at people with the guns I do have ammunition or can get ammunition for. If I don't have the gun, I might have ammo, but I'd be throwing what? Brass cylinders at somebody. They're heavier. I mean, they are, but they're not going to be at that velocity you need to really put a target down, right? So the 380 auto is probably the best example. And interestingly enough, 32 auto up until just a very, very short time ago was still out there. And in fact, it is at the retail storefront level and not outrageously priced. But a lot of people are poo-pooing their 32 automatics that they have, and it's like, you better not. If you can still buy ammunition for that 32 or that 22, you better buy a living snot out of that stuff if it's reasonably priced. If it's outrageous in $1 round, no. You buy that last, okay? But we're in that situation where everything we have that puts a bullet down range will be pressed into service or will need to be used. In each case, with each of these weapons, by the way, despite the gun snobbery out there, each weapon can be used or significantly applied in such a way that they are useful. Now, when we say 25 automatics, everybody goes, oh, man, it's a pup gun. Yeah, but you put a face full of 25 or a crotch full of 25 on somebody, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because usually that's about it. There are some bigger, older Orchies that You know, they even made an Orchie 25 automatic that was staggered magazine fed. It was like a 19-round magazine way back. We're not talking new. We're talking back when the Browning High Power came out, way before it actually. And in the 22 and 25s, there were a number of really interesting guns that came out that, well, the premise was if I keep stippling you with bullets, eventually you're going to succumb. It's suppression fire with a barking dog, right? Because 25 is a barking dog, like 32. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't have that energy you might want. It's not a Dirty Harry gun, but it does, bark like a dog and get everybody's attention. So back in the day when 25 automatic Colt pistol, that's 25 ACP, when it came out as the new dynamic cartridge, all of these foreign lands in, South America, Spain, Portugal, all of Eastern Europe, they came up with a whole bunch of really unique guns you've probably never seen, but it wasn't like a few. Guys, they made hundreds of versions and variants and copies. Hundreds. It's amazing. There's books. I've got examples. I've got books from back in the 60s or 50s that where collectors were covering the many manufacturers of the pre-World War II period, because that's typically when a lot of this stuff, was really in play. But it also goes before World War I, and it's hundreds and hundreds of manufacturers. You don't know what's out there. You really don't. Movies make a very narrow brain of people with regard to everything, in every skill. And guns are no different. It's like they really don't have any idea. It's either got to be a Dirty Harry 357, 44 Magnum / 41 Magnum from Magnum Force, or, and by the way, you got to remember when they did Magnum Force, 41 Magnum was a standard in San Francisco, not 357, okay? They were issuing 41 Magnums, and Dirty Harry had the 44. Oh, you probably didn't know that, but I'm adding a little more facts to your brain matter there, so you can put it in the inventory. Anyway, all of these different weapons that were produced were some really interesting designs, some very, very unique, many just absolute copies. I mean, for instance, once the baby Browning came out, everybody made their cheap copy of the baby Browning. China, Spain, Romania, you name it, whoever it was. Colt's little pocket Colt was the same way. The hammerless, that gun was cranked out everywhere. I mean everywhere. Every country on the planet. Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, okay? I mean, let's see, Belize. Everybody made copies of the little baby Colt in 25. Now, maybe that little factory only made, 5,000 pieces or 800 of this or 2,500 of that, but all over the planet. So these weapons are about, and they're going to pop out of the woodwork in a number of different ways where caches are going to be brought out. Well, I got all these. Well, I got ammo, too. It's like, well, you're going to make them work? Well, there are applications to these guns, but at the very least, a quick grab out of the pocket and put up under the chin and, 6 rounds to the, to shave with, so to speak, is one of those solutions that works quite well with 22, 25, etc. No, I don't want to be that close to my enemy, but guess what? It's one of those second or third go-to guns in a personal carry arrangement. And a lot of people, traditionally have done that. It's not just the big bore, or the Glock, or the name brand, whatever, that's out there being carried. And the other smaller guns can be stuffed in a lot of places where they're out of sight until they're needed, and you know where to reach, and at least it gives you that chance to, grab for something else, stick them with a knife, or at least jump forward now that you put 6, maggot holes in them, and bite their nose off, okay? Whatever it is you got to do. Take, again, save your life. So don't poo-poo those guns. Just remember they're paid for. You already got them. Maybe you got some grandpa guns like that. You better be going through every last one of them. Check every last one of them. Make sure they all work. And if they need something, go to gunpartscorp.com or Sarco. You'll probably find what you need there, okay? Because the Gun Parts has been doing this for decades and decades, and they do have quite a collection. And they do have a lot of the unique weapons, some of which I've even mentioned here in the last few minutes, okay? So that is a solution, not just pissing and moaning about the problems. Well, you can, of course. And this gets into something else I've been constantly talking about the last couple of days. The Lego gun, the AR, does have a number of options that are actually pretty decent. And one of them for you guys that are deer or Bambi slayers, okay, in general, or, maybe Michigan shooters especially, Michigan hunters. They make a 243 upper, and 243 Winchester. That's right, same as your bolt gun. So a lot of you guys who've been saying, man, I got to get an AR, how about you build or buy a two-piece gun, put together a 243 Win? A lot of guys I know that shoot 243 have been loading it for 10, 20, 30 years. One person, like I said, he's older than I am. He's got a collection of guns that you would just stop and take a day or two on to go through, okay? But he made this comment to me when he was in his truck. He goes, I got to get an AR-15. Things are, it looks like the war's kicking off. I got to get an AR-15. Well, apparently he may not have one or doesn't have one. I guess he doesn't. But as I pointed out, number one, he's got weapons that he can tack drive you with at 1,200 yards when he goes mule deer hunting out west, ridge to ridge, and he comes back with 1, 2, or 3 mule deer and or mule deer sausage every year. Okay. He's got a 243 for sure. I know, because I think I sold 2 of them to him decades and decades ago. Okay. And I know he loves it because he raves about it at different times. He'll brag about how he got, the deer up north and, near Atlanta with the 243 Win and, one shot, one kill, okay? Well, he's got lots of 243. So if I were him, since 223 isn't really available right now, and since he's pretty proficient with that 243, and he probably even has some other sources for ammo, everybody has a watering hole that they don't talk about to everybody, especially if it's a guy that has a garage full of ammo, because I just had somebody bring that up and pointed another person to me the other day. Fact of the matter is, if you're quiet, all the ammo you need might be sitting right there because it's also in what is an odd caliber or unique caliber by comparison to where people are thinking right now with their brains. So 243 is a good choice. It's an excellent cartridge. It is something that will kill you dead, dead, dead. Bambis die dead, dead, dead every year from that round. And it's available. So where you might not be able to find, 5.56, maybe you're having a problem with the 308, that 243, because you're already familiar with its performance, by the way, too, you can put an 18 or a 20 or even up to a 24-inch 243 Win together. If I go over to Bear Creek Arsenal, I know he's got a couple of 243s on the shelf right now in uppers. Figure out what you need to put together. Buy the upper, buy the lower. Congratulations, pick out the optics. To be quite honest, if I were doing that and I had a 243 bolt gun, you know what I'd do? I would go buy the exact same scope I have on my bolt gun I'd put that in my AR. Why? Because when I put it to my eye, there's no brain orientation problems. I immediately set to target. All I have to do is make sure that rifle is zeroed just like my bolt action is zeroed, and I'm going to relate to point of impact and performance immediately. Now, this is something I brought up before. Let me point something out. If you look at the collection of guns at the beginning of World War II, I want you to go, because you can do it easily, you can go to YouTube, you can go to any search engine and search, say, 1903 Springfield, M1 Garand. Now, you're going to get comparative studies here because you'll look at the different variants. Johnson rifle. Go take a look at the Johnson rifle. That was the Marine Corps' choice over the Garand because they could get it. And so they bought a bunch of Johnson rifles in 30-06, and they bought a bunch of Johnson squad guns in 30-06. Now, there's also other weapons, the Rising submachine gun, as opposed to the Thompson submachine gun. At the beginning of the war, each of these weapons had the sight system as laid down and requested by, for competition, the contractors when they presented their weapons. However, I would point something out. By the time you were done with the middle of 1943, every one of those weapons had either been changed out and relegated to second line or given to allies, And in the process, their replacements had one, if not a couple of other significant changes, but the significant change was this. Every sighting system on every weapon system that we had from the middle of the war to the end had the exact same sighting configuration from one gun to the next. Now, the Russians did the same thing, if you pay attention and look at their firearms, but especially with the weapon systems that we adopted, the only variation that might be the odd man out would be the grease gun. And even there, the grease gun conformed to the basic specs of and concept of the PEEP barleycorn. What do I mean by that? Well, take a look at a carbine. Look at a mid-war carbine. Take a look at a mid-war 1903 A3. Take a look at an M1 Garand. Take a look at an M1 Thompson. Now, especially look at the rear sight, and also take a look. Some places on videos, they do a really good job of throwing the camera up there and letting you see a sight view of looking down the barrel. If you pay attention, you'll notice all of a sudden, all of the sighting configuration bases were the same. Why do you do that? Well, they already did the studies and figured out that by creating the same basic sight configuration for all of the weapons, subconsciously, the brain will realign based on the difference in the performance of the cartridge. It's, battlefield experience. But the most important thing is initial sight orientation. How quickly can you grab another weapon, no matter what it is, and immediately start using it, because your brain is already adapted to the purpose of each component, and they're uniform and consistent, so you minimize. And so that's one of the things. That's an example of, again, an ergonomic thing, but also it was a whole bunch of testing. I've got miles and miles and miles of books on the subjects of performance and development of equipment, weapons, people from World War II. It was a big research box for the government. It always is. Whenever they do a war, they always keep lots of records. But they were especially looking at, and were experimenting at this end on the non-combat side of the development box, all of the technologies from one to the next to simplify and improve general performance for the purpose of creating a utility soldier. There isn't anything a guy couldn't jump behind that he wouldn't be able to understand. That was the whole purpose. And immediately would have minimal concern with, okay, this sight does this. Wait a minute, hold on, I've got to reorient. I've got a V notch system. I've got a dot barleycorn, but I've got a single post. Wait a minute, how's that work? Some of them have dual orientation front sights, which really was, creating a lot of confusion, because that blade in the middle, even with the barleycorn sight, by the way, you've already had this happen, some of you, when you've had oddball barrels attached to guns that have been in service for a while. That barleycorn is usually what you try to center, the outer blades, but in reality, the center of your peep sight should be that post in the middle only. Everybody has a real problem with this. Well, the Russian sights, look at how they're built, AK, SKS, whatever. You've got that round shield sight system, but because you have adjustment, for horizontal and vertical, improvement for point of impact, guess what? In many cases, people have a tendency to subconsciously line circle to circle, and when they pull the trigger, you're often to the right, often to the left, depending upon orientation of that post. In reality, you have to be thinking and constantly re-engineering your brain to make sure that little dot, that post is right in the center of that peep sight in order for you to hit the target as originally intended, rather than just trying to give it an impression you're trying to shoot it while they're busy shooting back at you and successfully not getting hit. That's always embarrassing, okay? Anyway, I'll tell you what, Edward, we are at the bottom. For all of you new listeners, we have been doing this for decades, and Weapons Wednesday, we have a traditional bottom-of-the-hour break. And so, Ed, if you could, and you get a chance, let's pull that up, and we're going to do a bottom-of-the-hour break. I'll know when to shut up, because Ed will be bringing up the sound behind me. That's how it works. Also, real quick here, Over at Ames Surplus, they do have some 308. I had a bunch of questions about that for some reason yesterday. 762 by 51 NATO or a 308 Win. Anywhere. Well, yeah, there's stuff around. They even got some UN ammo. I think there's a few flavors over at ammoman.com right now. Yes, it goes as quick as it shows up. And in this case, this is Wolf Steel Case, 150 grain FMJ, $13.95 for a 20-round box. Battlefield Superiority round. And don't forget, for $9.95, they have Wolf 762 by 54R, 148 grain FMJ ammunition, 20-round box. So those two, pretty standard for all you guys out there. And they've still got that double-aught buck, Sterling, which is rather fascinating. So again, there's another solution for you. They did get some federal, oh God. There you go. These better have the primers in right? Federal 45 Auto HST plus B, 230 grain, $40 a box. And I believe it's 25 rounds. Let me double check there because that box looks awful tiny. That box looked tiny to me, but that just could be Uncle Mark. You know, my perception is crazy sometimes. No, it's less than that. No, it's 20 rounds of 45 ACP for only $40. Hey, $2 a round. By God, that better be a Star Wars blaster when it hits. The target better explode, half vaporize, and all that should be left are the lower leg components and their socks sticking in their boots.
Hey, question, Mark.
I don't think so, but anyway, go ahead, caller, jump in there.
Yes, should we be buying any blank ammo? Only place I can find any blank ammo, or any ammo at all, it's not even ammo, is over at Target Sports, and they got 30-06 blanks, 1,000 rounds for $299 or something like that. So it's 30 cents a round, and I thought, well, what can we do with that?
That's even high for blank. Well, I mean, just blank's expensive right now anyway. I know what they're doing because this is what always happens, and I haven't talked that much about is, yes, we could rebuild blank into ball. But here's the thing. Well, here's where you got to go. Number one, if it's 223 and it's American blank, it's that rosette crimp. The rosette crimp is designed so that it simulates, obviously, the bullet/projectile, but also prevents adhesion. That's why it has that serration. They like that. And a combination of that, and of course, also as a way to seal the cartridge with some lacquer paint, too. You have to open that up, first of all. And you want to make a tool. You're going to almost actually, what you do, what do they have? They've got there's a reaming. It's not a reaming tool for what we do, but it's a commercial reamer that goes right down to a needle point, and it's tapered. It's like a big, long pyramidal of, 4-point blade. What you do is you open it up by getting that little needle point into the end of that piece of brass, opening up the rosette, dumping the powder. Then a second, soft blade tool, because you don't want to be cutting or scoring up this brass. You insert that, basically like a trim nail or a finish nail driver, okay? You push that in there and open it up that much more. And ideally, that'll spread it right open to where it needs to. So you're going to twist while you push that in there. You're going to leave the primer where it is. Save the powder, but remember, you do not, I'm going to say this again, do not use blank powder at this time for propellant powder. There's a reason. The blank powder is very useful, but not for anything that you're going to do with bullets, okay? At least not for now. Later on in desperation, you probably could, but understand that the EC series of blank powders that are used, and then there are some, like the Germans have some flake powder that's comparable to the EC2 powder. Those powders travel at a much higher velocity. They virtually are explosive. They're not burning. They're literally exploding. Okay, they're on the supersonic end of the slap charge scale. Okay, but I want to save all that powder because it'd be useful for something else. I'm going to dump that powder and put it into a nice clean container so it doesn't get contaminated. In fact, ideally an old other powder container that I've scraped the label off, put a new label on that says blank powder so I don't get confused ever. Then I'm going to dump the powder in there. The next thing I got to do is I need to open up the case and actually do an initial throat size You can probably do a throat shoulder size right there, right from the beginning. But the only thing you're doing this for is to open up the case so that you can then put it in a case trimmer. First thing you want to do is shorten it to spec, obviously. The second thing you're going to do is ream it out internally to create a uniform, surface for the cantilever, for the bullet to seat and the cantilever to set. So this is a lot of work. But if you are the Vietnamese, they did this all the time with all kinds of ammo. In this case with us, we've done it in the past when we've been short, especially when we could only get live blanks way back in the 70s to make 223, 556 live ammo. Once you got it reamed, you treat it just like you do any other powder, same powder, same bullet. But remember, take out your depriming pin because you've got a brand new virgin primer in there. So you don't need to deprime the brass, but people make that mistake and lose a few rounds because they start working the machine and they're working the turret, and they pop the primer. And well, wait a minute, why? It's virgin, it's brand new, never issued, never used. So other than that, the variations on that are the tubular type false bullet blanks that you see that are brass. Some of those are, again, actually there's two ways those are done. One is they come to a point and they have basically a circular hole in the end, a very small, about pencil lead size, which allows for the gas, once the thing is activated, the cartridge is activated, to escape and operate the system. The other version that you will see in many of the pictures, like when you go to UN Ammo or whatever, has the same rosette crimp that we have on our 5.56 rounds, but it is at the very end of like the 308 and the 8mm and the 303 rounds that have the false bullet. And the first thing we need to do is the same procedure. We open up the case, we dump the powder. I would separate this powder from the other powders I just did with the 5.56. Each powder has a unique burn. That's why there's EC1, EC2, and EC3. Now, because of this, what everybody needs to remember is, again, you separate the powders. You're now going to have a little simpler process, but you have to cut where the obvious normal step in the case is, where the false bullet is extruded with the rest of the case. You cut that off and trim it. You, again, are going to first size it, trim it for length. Then you're going to ream it for, dimension. Congratulations, now you've got another, case available. But like you said, the biggest problem is blanks traditionally have been cheap. They've been, it used to be a nickel a round, 5 cents, 4 cents, 3 cents. You're talking ridiculous prices for these blanks right now, but there's a reason. What I just described is what people are doing with them.
Well, the other thought was if you monkey some of them up pretty badly, you can make them as a pusher for a single shot throwaway.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's all kinds of things you could do. Well, you could, okay, now, if you want to use them for other projects, example, go over to, like if you want to use the blanks for launchers,
yeah.
Now I will point out again, the amount of energy that is applied or available with a rifle blank for small arms simulation is not that large a charge, that heavy a charge. There's a big difference between blank cartridges for simulation and rifle grenade blanks for launching. And the difference is in the amount of available energy and the way that the impulse is constructed with the powder, okay? However, if you go over to www.unammo.com, and rather than reinvent the wheel, take a look at what wheels people have already made. If you go down to the bottom of the scroll for UN Ammo, I'm over there right now, they have grenade launchers, but they're using blank commercial blanks, regular military / commercial blanks. Now, these are, well, actually what they are, golf ball launchers. And let's see, they've got one for the AK-47. They've got a number of, okay, where are the pictures here? Let's see if I can find it again. For instance, they've got the German blanks. Now, what I mentioned about that, where they have the false bullet, the German blanks, the problem with those, you really can't do anything with them for conventional projectiles because That particular Hurtenberg type blank, it's not Hurten. They're probably not Hurtenberg. There's something else now. But it was originally those were done by Hurtenberg, and they are a metal base like a 2-stage artillery shell. The upper body is plastic, which is cheaper. The base, where the primer is used, and they use a standard military primer, is metallic, and they join them about a 1/4 inch up the body of the case. Not even that, probably about a 1/4 inch. And those blanks, of course, the only thing you do is use them for launching blanks or for training blanks. In this case, there is a couple of different solutions for launchers using the blanks. In fact, here we go, golf ball launcher for AK-47, but they also have other combinations there because they've got, 223 blank, 7.62 by 39 blank, which, by the way, used to be quite rare and still is pricey, always pricey. And then there's the 308/7.62 by 51 NATO. That idea could be adopted if somebody were looking at those and then using that as a premise based on understanding the weight of what you can launch and the limitations in range. There's many people that have bought the Energa training grenades. They bought an M7 launcher, stuck it on the end of the rifle, the spigot launcher, bought blanks because they thought the blanks were, one blank is the same as another. No, they're not. And they would fire try to launch an Energa or a conventional rifle grenade, the earlier model that's a little lighter, with a regular blank, and it would do everything it was supposed to do for about 21 feet. It would go right out the end of the tube. The pulse it would push the grenade, it would leave the tube very slowly, and it would drop about 10, 15 feet in front of you. So, kind of fails, doesn't do the job. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about foot poppers and also for remote starters for flammable things.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one thing I would do with the 308s if I was building 40 millimeter grenade. You ever seen a 40 millimeter training round or live training round?
Yep.
Okay. Remember all that they did. That was whoever that person was that did that. I swear to God, the Army fired his ass. I'll guarantee it. You want to know why? Because look how simple that design is. They went with a phenolic material, almost a fiberglass, fiber resin case. But the base is, the primer is actually our reject 45 ACP and reject rifle cases. When you run brass, you get a percentage that don't meet spec. Well, it's usually up towards the shoulder and the throat, not so much down in the base of the case. So somebody got the bright idea, hey, we can make a fibrous shell casing. We're going to use a low grade, but still basically the same powder that we use for the 40 millimeter grenade. And for our capping system, we're going to take these defunct expendable discards, insert a primer in them anyway, insert them into the body or the primer channel of the fibrous case that we made, which was built for that for that blem case. And then we load a 40 millimeter paint round on the other end, which is activated by just a big heavy slug with like an eggshell, body with a bunch of powder in it. And we got ourselves a training grenade. Now, here's what's interesting. You can do the exact same thing with an HE round. The only difference would be that you trade out that paint round. You would basically be building it the way the Russians build theirs. There wouldn't be any safety. Don't drop it on the ground. It's very embarrassing when it blows your kneecaps off, okay? But it would still be a solution to get more 40 millimeter rounds out there and manufactured if need be. There would still be some safety features you would add. But that's another place where you could use the blank cases. You could, cut them down, or like you said, use them for foot poppers. If you do that, the longer cases, any shell will work because you can make that happen. But the shorter cases, or better still, modifying the case, for instance, for weatherization, let's say I wanted to leave it out and I knew I was going to just walk away and abandon it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, nobody's going to touch it off, and that'll be there for a while until the next person steps on it. But if I knew I wanted, wanted to make it a little more powerful, you take that plastic case or the brass case and cut it at the shoulder to create a straight tube. You double up or triple up the powder. You put a better tamp charge in front of it, cardboard wad with a little bit of, say, tissue paper. Then you wax that shut, wax it or paraffin it shut. So it's sealed for the weather, and then use that for your foot popper directional charge for whatever you want.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
another idea for blanks is the next step up from using BBs, the plastic BBs, is for the look and feel of a real rifle. You use the brass, and they get a chance to hear a boom and things like that, but not hit the target. And now you have formed-fitted brass that you can work with. That's already opened on the end.
That's true. Now, that will happen, especially if you can use it in a sealed system. The rosette crimp will open up most of the time, and it still will open up faster than anything available. Again, the big thing is it's more useful to use it if you can figure out some way to make it really, really hurt somebody that you're pointed at. But it's true for training simulation, which is what it's for. It gives them all the basic feel of and the audio performance of the weapon so that they get greater confidence, develop confidence in the use and understanding of the weapon system, and they get used to the din of conflict and battle with other parties, discharging arms nearby. That's what the whole purpose behind it was. The big thing is, again, remember, it used to be they didn't have blanks like we're talking about here. They were wooden blanks. Remember those cartridges that are available? In fact, let's thank you for bringing it up. We better remind everybody. Here's a cartridge that's the cheapest on the market right now. Go over to www.jgsales.com.
Dad, before you get into that, something else. You may not want to burn through all your blanks. Some blanks can be used to fire rifle grenades.
Right. Well, that's what we're talking about. Depending upon which system that they have out there, that's what we were saying. Some of those blanks will be useful, especially with some of these new systems that they've come out with. So it's a matter of whether or not you invest now. UN Ammo has some of those. They're actually designed to, quote-unquote, be golf ball. What they are, those are cup grenade launchers. There's two systems, spigot or cup. Now, the big advantage of the cup is that, again, you can kind of throw anything in there or even make it so that other ordnance that you may readily have on the battlefield can be adapted and used with your launcher. The Japanese did this. The Brits did this also. The Brits and the French, everybody used cup launchers in World War I, but spigot was just as common. The interesting thing is that, remember, everybody made a lot of different grenades and or destructive ordnance, and in many cases, they actually intentionally engineered them so they could be slid sideways and used with the cup grenade system. Improvise, adapt, overcome. So that's another reason to remember these new ideas that people have come up with. Understand that they launch well, but you have to have a weight limit. Everything is purely just like it is rocket science, okay, or ballistic science, let's put it that way. Anyway, real quick, over at JG Sales, still the cheapest ammunition if you could find a 6.5 Swede rifle. If you go over there and you go to rifle ammunition, and then when we go from rifle ammunition, we go to 6.5 variants. It's on the first column straight down, almost to the bottom, 6.5 variants. When we get there, we have, here's the best buy in the country for loaded, ammunition, or at least has a primer, it's brass case. 6.5 by 55 Swedish M14 blank, wooden projectile, 4,800 rounds for $96. Okay, guys, 4,800 rounds for $96.
That's almost as cheap as fireworks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, can you find an insert for that that will fit a shotgun or a bolt action?
The two guns that'll fit would be obviously the Swedish Mauser and the Lugeman. The original, the Hakim rifle is an 8mm. The Legion is in 6.5 by 55. It's the exact same rifle in the original caliber. Now, the thing is, if you had any of those weapons, this is all you do is pull that wooden bullet, and then you do everything. Yeah, remember, this is a wooden projectile, so this is an open throat case. All you have to do is make sure that your case length is correct, and I doubt you even have to ream the inside of that brass. Okay, this is a projectile. Now, people often ask me about, how does a wooden bullet work? Well, don't aim at somebody. Well, what do you mean? Well, because if you aim at somebody and they're close enough, you will hit them. My grandpa was in World War I. When they were in the trenches, they had training trenches, 7-8 miles behind the lines, which actually were almost always also last-ditch auxiliary defense. There usually were 7 layers of defense in a trench warfare environment. Well, when they bring the troops up, and he was with the American Expeditionary Force, he was with the Army, the French used wooden bullets to familiarize everybody with the trenches. Now, if you got your head shot, you get your eyeball shot out, you got stung with one of these, well, that was considered acceptable by French Army standards. So it motivated you to not get shot. But it was training.
Yeah.
So these do actually perforate stuff, okay? I would remind everybody, first of all, we always treat everything as as live. But in this case, these are actual loaded cases. Now, again, what I would do, I would pull the bullets. I wouldn't frag them. I'd be careful with them. You never know when you might need something unique just to be painful. But I would collect those, and I'd put them in a container. There's all kinds of plastic peanut containers and stuff you can do nowadays. And then I would take the powder. Again, I would take a canister that's empty, scrape or cover that label up, and put 6.5 by 55 Swedish M14 blank powder. And then I would dump the powder, and now I've got 6.5 brass up the yin-yang with a primer. Now, the 6.5 is a phenomenal round, actually. The rifles themselves, the Swedes don't make junk, never did. So this particular rifle, even in its most cobbled, sporterized version where somebody did a real Hugo Warsaw job, typically the steel and everything is intact. The guns are great. The Legion is a tack driver. You give me a Legion, I'll show you how to ride it all day. I would have no problem. As long as I get ammo, I wouldn't trade out for the gun ever. To me, I've had enough time on the Hakim, and I've shot enough of the Legions. Not as much the Legion, because 6.5 by 55 ammo has always been expensive by comparison. Through my whole lifetime, there's never been any real cheap surplus. You either had to buy Norma, or later on you could buy the Korean PMC. Otherwise, it was military surplus, and there wasn't any, hardly any, because nobody came off it. But this is the old ammo that was at Samco. I know because I talked to the guys. They have millions of rounds of this. Millions. They want.
Mark, if you got yourself a little jig and you cut the tips off, you could probably glue on or insert the metal screw or something that's a little bit more bite than the wood. And the other thing with the wood and the trenches and stuff, the first guy may feel the sting of the wood, but you don't have to worry about your backstop so much.
Right. Oh, well, no, that was
stuck in the guy.
Well, it was a blank. It was purely for training, and the idea was the Russians do the same thing. They consider a 10% casualty expansion during a training exercise acceptable. That includes killed and wounded. The French were the same way, and they didn't like us anyway. They American.
Maybe you could put a little green tip on there that similar to what's on some of those bullets, a little plastic green tip to make them a little more useful.
The way to do it, you actually had the right idea. You probably could come up with a seating jig, and what you could do is a piece of it would be a whatever dimension drill bit, and you could insert a steel shaft or a brass shaft or a copper shaft of raw metal, and then experiment, see how it would work. It would be no worse than, or be just like being shot with a flechette round. Now, the wood probably would not sleeve, the sleeve would not slough during flight. I don't know what the flight velocities are. We'd have to chronograph it first. But this stuff has been around for a while. I keep mentioning it. For $4,800 or $4,800 rounds for $96. The shipping is probably going to be more expensive than the cost of the ammo.
Well,
in fact, depending on where you are, that's going to determine the Bing on that one.
Well, you take a flint or you take a shotgun primer and epoxy it on the end of there, and you may have something good for popping fuel cans.
Well, the way to do that, if you want to, there's another. Yeah, we haven't talked about that in a while. We used to do 380 auto. Everybody I was just mentioning 380 at the beginning of this hour. Everybody used to piss and moan about how it wasn't powerful enough. We used to get Super Vel. Well, Super Vel is the first of the cart mouth. Like now, you see it for $2 a round, like the stuff I was just joking about a few minutes ago. But Super Vel was the grandmother of all the companies doing the kind of ammo you're seeing everybody do in the specialized industry. And what we would do, since they were just down the road here originally, we'd buy their bullets, and what we did is we backset. We take a drill, we backset the dimension of a primer, open up the lead area. The cavity was extensive to begin with. Then we would take the EC blank powder from these blanks that I'm telling you about. We would take we would pack the channel with EC blank. Now we would recess it just enough so the primer would sit the depth of beyond the depth of a BB. The primer goes in over top of the charge. The BB then gets glued in right over top of the primer. And then you fill in the difference around the BB to stabilize it so it can't just weeble wobble off for some reason. And what you end up with is an exploding jacketed round. See, EC blank works well if you have things that you pull pins. Let's say that you wanted to make a lot of things where you pull the pin and then you don't count, you throw it. Because the EC blank charge is what's typically in many in different nationalities' grenades. But you're not supposed to know that. So the real value in the blanks is the powder.
Right.
It's better than black powder. It's vastly superior to black powder. EC3.
So there's a very good chance. There's a very good chance that that's what's in those 6.5 Mauser round blanks, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. No. These blanks are all now the wooden blank. I don't know. Like I said, this is one that we've always had it available. However, typically again, because that is a wooden projectile, whatever powder they were going to use would be their lowest end powder cost-wise. On the other hand, if they're using an EC, if they're using one of the blank charges, then the cool thing is that, like I said, that would be the stuff that you save up in the can. You make sure you mark it clearly because you don't want it to be cross-contaminated with slower velocity or slower burning powders. You want to keep it as pure as you can. Because then, like that 5.56, that 308, that 30-06 powder, the blank powders available, those will all perform the same way if they're an open charge. See, what they have to do, okay, let's explain the science here. With a projectile, you have a gas retardation, a block of gas that is kept behind the projectile until it passes the gas port. The gas port bleeds a certain amount of the gas. Based on the length of it, you eliminate the threat of over-cup pressuring the gas channel. It pushes the action back and works it, okay? Well, with a blank, you don't have that. So what you have to do is you have to create an energy pulse, and typically, again, if it's semi-auto, you need a blank adapter that retards it is an in-place replacement for the projectile. Now, here's an interesting thing. There still has to be a porting capability with the blank adapter at the other end. It has to bleed off gas because never does the gas system have to absorb the entire energy of the entire pulse from the main charge. Only a percentage is bled off and goes back down the gas tube to the rod, the tappet, the op rod, whatever it is. Okay, the short piston, carbine, whatever. So the big thing here again is that because of that, it has to also be a much faster powder, because the stroke, it needs to have that much more energy to compensate for that lack of retarded compression that's taking place with the projectile moving down the barrel. And it takes me more time to talk about this than anywhere near what it takes for it to happen. Think about it. Boom. I can't speak that fast.
Hey, would the wooden blanks be fast enough to set off tannerite?
Well, that's another one that could be tested, but I wouldn't see why it wouldn't. It would be useful for that. It should. Now, that would depend on range. My grandpa was saying that at 100 yards, those things would stick into your skin. Because when he first got there, like I said, they had him in the trenches. They were training and taking the other trenches. They would actually have them advance through this mock no man's land, and they were firing 30-06 and 8mm Lebel, mostly 8mm Lebel at that time, because we didn't have that many .6 guns in service. But the 8mm Lebel wooden bullet, the energy was pretty much the same as the .6.
Well, Cookie was cooking some rats, and you had to worry about what he was cooking because he had splinters in them.
Red splinters. Yeah. Well, see, that's another thing. Would it work as a game getter? I don't know that wouldn't be a bad idea. I just wouldn't know what the red paint was. That'd be my luck. Oh, it was arsenic. Oh, really? Yeah. No, potassium ferrocyanide. Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great. You got a really good color out of this one. Yeah, you thought he died from the bullet trauma. No, he was poisoned.
Yeah, hollow point wooden bullets with powdered poison in them.
Right. Well, like I just said, potassium ferrocyanide. That would be nasty. But the thing is that really, as much as anything, the first step is there's lots of good 6.5 bullets out there. And so the most common idea would be to pull the wooden bullet and go that way. But you still have tons of wooden bullets to do something with, and you still got tons of the old powder left to do something with. So there's other cases or other things that can be developed. But again, guys, 4,800 rounds for $96. It's worth it to find a tired 6.5 by 55 Swedish rifle, simply because that's a lot of bullet for very little cost.
At least find the barrel for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, there's barrels all over the place. Gunpartscorp.com has got 6.5 barrels on the shelf for about $42. Seriously, you could build a Remington rolling block quickly if you wanted to. That would be a crude, rude one, but that would work. Not crude, would be a good rifle. Anyway, we got to go for break. God bless the Republic.
We're on the march.
The New World Order.
Shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run.
And we're on the march day and night.
Day and night.
Okay, everybody, go take a break. Run for the bathroom. We will be back right here for the second hour of the Intel Report. And again, 4,800 6.5 by 55 Swedish M14 blanks, $96. If you can go drive and pick them up, I'll get a whole pickup truck's worth. But that would just be me.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you will fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. Pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you. God bless this republic.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, forgive me, it's dark outside. Good afternoon, or almost evening. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the Afternoon Intelligence Report. I'm Art Corky. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, west, southeast, north, and northwest. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube via live stream, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Ultranet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, territories, and the clock. It is 6:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. Weapons Wednesday, the 18th of November, 2020. Old Earth Calendar 2020. Battle for the Republic, Dance of Swords. And it is most assuredly the battle for the Republic that we are joined in. Anyway, got an interesting end subject there on ammunition, but especially on the 6.5 Mauser, which then made me go, let's do a quick search and see what we can find in the way of rifles. Now, this is an example of what I would be looking for if I were you, and I was looking for a 6.5 Swede. There are brand new 6.5 by 55 Swedish Mauser chambered actions for $700. Several companies have them. You can find them real quick. Okay, not a problem. What I'm looking for is a standard model 92 Mauser / Swedish, bolt action cobble job. Now, this is an example right here over at Gun Auction. They've got a 92 Mauser in 6.5 by 55, 6.5 by 55 Swedish. Let's see, it's auction 171126666. Oh, great, that's a fantastic number. Anyway, it has been 3 days, 1 hour, and 46 minutes into the auction. As of November 21st, I guess that's when it ends. That's when the bids end. $250, no reserve, and that's the base bid. Or apparently there are 0 bids right now. So $250 is what they want. Well, what is this? What do you get for $250? Well, there's a cut stock. It has been the butt stock has been extended. Somebody did a very good job. Somebody actually knew what they were doing. Did a very good job of inserting and adding an additional, looks like maybe 4 inches worth, 3-4 inches with a rubber recoil pad to the weapon from the one direction. The stock has been cut, as I said. The upper foregrip has been taken away. But here's another thing. They have added, though I do not know right away, they've added a commercial iron sight from, I would say, something done either in the 50s or 60s. Could be even a little newer. Could be into the 70s. But it looks like it's, again, got an iron peep sight rear that's micro-adjustable. The front blade, I can't see that clearly. I'm looking at the images here, okay, there we go. Yeah, they put a commercial front blade on it. The barrel length is... The stock was cut, and I added a piece to bring it to 14.5 inches. So apparently it was cut shorter, okay? The barrel is 18 inches. It shoots a 3/4 inch group at 100 yards with Remington ammo. So anyway, the rifle, there's a little bit of information, but not much. There is a good overview image of the gun, but for $250, That's it used to be this would be $98 gun, $75 or $55 gun, depending on where you are. You might find something like this laying around in one of the pawn shops, okay? If you look around, seriously, or in a gun shop where like I said, I'm looking for a cobble model. I don't want an original because they're going to tell you, it's all original, it's classic, it's 100 and some years old. Well, I know that. It's 120 years old at least, okay? But basically, this gun right here would be all that I need to get started. And what I would do is, needless to say, I might stick with the iron sights. I like iron sights on a bolt gun. In fact, not everything I have has got scopes on it. Most of them don't, okay? But in this case, what you're ending up with is a pretty decent little simple package, nice little saddle gun or cross-country gun. You could throw a 9-power scope on top of that, and this gun would be very effective. Well, then how much is your ammunition for it? Well, you figure it out. $96 for 4,800 rounds, and then your powder and whatever bullet you choose that you think or decide works best with this rifle. Spear, Hornady, whatever you choose, okay? So that's a quick example. There are cheaper. I know you could find a cheaper 6.5 Mauser out there. But that's not a bad price in this age, okay? Example, there's another gun there. It looks like it's, what is this, in 6.5 by 55. It is they want 450. That's basically where they are right now with it. And again, this one's out of Wisconsin. Otherwise, oh, wow, this looks like a Jorgensen rifle. Wow, on top of everything else, it's an original Jorgensen in 6.5. Oh, forgive me, manufacturer Smith & Wesson. I have no, Nazi Germany, 6.5 by 55, Craig, bring back, no papers. Sporterized some, matching bolt, 1944 mark, 26 and 3/4 inch barrel. Nice bore, had this gun 25 years, never cleaned it to see what it was. What it was probably is enough gun here to add an original stock and handguard to finish it up. No, there's no sense now. Very rare Third Reich rifle and sights. Took a look at all of the markings in the picture, blah, 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 blah. So it's a German World War II pickup, but remember, it's a Jorgensen rifle, so it's an occupation gun. But it is supposed to be in 6.5 by 55 Swedish, which is cool. So as far as now, if you're not familiar with the Craig Jorgensen, guys, I should follow up on that. Forgive me. The regular Mausers you're used to have a straight inline magazine below the receiver. It's natural. Every gun pretty much does it that way. The Craig, or series of rifles, the Jorgensen series of rifles, actually have a side gate. Now, this is a rifle you see during the Spanish-American War. We had it in service when we went against Spain. This gun was used, the side gate model Craig Jorgensens that we use, the 3040 Craigs in America. We used them right up through World War II. In World War II, they were issued to the militia across the country. In Michigan, a little bit of history, at the Ford plant, the Liberator bomber plant, the primary rifle was the Craig Jorgensen. They brought them up from the reserves, and my dad, when he was first there for just a short time before he went into the Navy, every third man was rotated into designated militia to defend the factory. So everybody had time to actually familiarize themselves with the rifle. The Craig Jorgensen actions are butter smooth. In fact, you think there's something wrong with the gun when you use it, because when you move the action is just so phenomenally smooth that it's like it's floating. It's a beautiful rifle. But I didn't see that until I realized, looking at the image a little closer, because I was in a hurry here during that little few minutes break we had. But that is available for $450. And again, I wouldn't think twice about it. I don't know what the sight is that's available. I don't see anything that's, in fact, they're doing a good job of showing you. They show the gun assembled, but it must have had a scope on it. So this rifle is probably already set up. The stock is actually sporterized or a custom sporterized stock. And I'd be willing to bet, the guy probably doesn't know this, but the custom stock was built back when, especially since it would be after World War II. Craig Jorgensen sporter stocks were available for a very good price all over the place in shooter grade walnut, in birch, etc. So this particular gun, even today, that's not a bad price for that weapon. Again, the Krag, the 3040 Krag, or in this case a 6.5 Swedish Krags, these rifles have a very, very, very soft action in terms of maneuvering. It always scares people when they first use it. I've had several of them. I got talked out of them because people wanted to buy them, so I made a good profit on all of them. But the last one I had was a cavalry carbine, 3040 Krag cavalry gun, and probably I think the sweetest and best tuned of all of them that I've ever owned. So just a heads up, it's out there. 6.5 Swedish. That's another gun that would be in the caliber. Why? Because I can get 4,800 rounds for $96, or at least the base startup is. Now, somebody's just asking. That's true. Can you use cast bullets with 6.5? Oh, hell yes, you can. So if you really want to keep the cost down, think about this. You buy yourself a 6.5 pencil bullet, probably be 140 or 160 grain if you want to go heavy, and 130 probably would be the low end. Oh, no, you can go lighter than that. If you wanted to, you could drop down to about 115 or 110, but you're really kind of, you don't want to do that. You've got plenty of case potential. So the 130 plus would be your better choice. And again, you can buy anything in 6.5 from Hornady, Spear, and any of the other bullet producers. Seriously. So this is another solution. If you want to have a fun project where you can enjoy getting ready to fight the war, so to speak, it's a Mr. Dolby gun, although it's magazine fed. Mr. Dolby is using a Remington rolling block. But again, purpose built and very, very comfortable to shoot. Looks like the stock is full length, comb is standard pitch, and has a full sculpted Monte Carlo cheek rest built into the wood. So it's a very nice stock. Back in the day, this was a very, very premium grade stock. In fact, I wouldn't have gone out and bought one. back then, money was different. Okay, in terms of what was available. So there again, solutions, not just complaining about the problems. Other things, again, as I mentioned, there are a bunch of modern 6.5 by 55 guns. If you have one, then this would be a way to actually be able to put the gun out there on the range, shoot it. I was pointing out before with these, when we brought up this blank ammo, was either leave it the way it is, get a handful of the 6.5 by 55 guns, and use them for final phase familiarization for live fire. Something to consider. Now, we use a 1,000-inch range, a 25-yard range, forgive me. That's called a 1,000, if you're not familiar, instead of 1,000-yard, they call them a 1,000-inch range. That's what a 25-yard range is, okay? When you hear me say that, 1,000-inch, that's a 25-yard range. All of your paper targets are adapted as needed for a 25-yard range to simulate all of the variances in terms of standard target engagement range out to 1,000 yards. With wooden bullets, you shouldn't have any problem using them to cut paper indoors or cut paper outside. Again, that's a projectile. Certainly not going to have any penetration, so it's not going to be a threat issue to the construction of the rifle range. But again, whoever you have you're using the range, somebody's going to have to confirm that, okay, yeah, this is what we're doing, so nobody gets confused. One nice thing about this is that red wooden bullet makes it very apparent what you are using. So if you are training with people, your coaches are observing and confirming that when they are loading a weapon, that they can easily see that they are loading the wooden projectile round and nothing else. So there are many advantages to this. There's all kinds of ways you can make this part of your training system. Example, start out with a derelict or a non-functional airsoft. advance the person to airsoft. You can advance the person if you want an intermediate live fire, go to 22. From 22, you graduate them to center fire, but you let them use the 6.5 by 55 rifles with wooden bullets. And no matter what new shooter you have developed and built confidence in that shooter. That's what you're aiming for, not to get them hurt, not to make boo-boos or stupid mistakes with your people. You want them all to be proficient as humanly possible in the shortest period of time possible. We are going to war. We're already at war. They're just trying to figure out how to cook the books, kids. They're trying to figure out how to boil you the rest of the way. That's what they're doing right now. And everybody pretty much that I know is ready to shoot their ass. Well, and again, rightly so. They need it. We really do. They need it. They need to be put down for what they're doing right now. So something's going to kick it off. When it does, you better have a program for building and, producing infantry, because everybody will be infantry. Everybody has to be able to handle a weapon. And we need a system. Well, this is an affordable tool for that system. And yes, they have millions of rounds. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. I talked to them about this. They bought everything Samco had in that ammunition. It's containers and containers and containers. They would love you to buy some of this. They really would. Probably can make a deal. You want to buy a whole truckload? They really will make a deal with you. They will. I already talked to them about this, and I've already mentioned it on the air once a while back. And right now, yeah, especially. So, and by the way, you make space so they can put other junk in there, but they probably got dust bunnies all over the place with the way things are going with sales. Oh, let's see, model 96 as opposed to a 92. Let's see what this has. I'm always curious when I see little pop-ups that show here, collector's firearms. Oh, God, when it says, yeah, $749. Yes, it's a very nice rifle for $749. No, I don't think we're going there. Okay, appreciate it, though. Really wonderful. Double plus good, thumbs up. Now, another thing here about blanks is what I would also recommend is to go mid-charge. In other words, medium charge, standard. Don't start beefing up your loads. And to be safe, you might even ratchet it back down the scale 1 or 2 steps in your reloading chart. Won't hurt. Now, the only reason I recommend that is because some of the brass may or may not be heat annealed. It depends on who made it, what year it was made. Some is heat annealed, some is not. Now, that's not a problem, only in that, remember, you may get a little more tackiness or adhesion when you're operating the system. You will have to be more aggressive when operating the system. Now, if it's semi-auto, you can't do anything more than pull the trigger. But consider, again, that there are a few things you can do with a manual gun, not the least of which is do a full case resize. I mentioned earlier when we were in the last hour, you do a throat resizing and a shoulder resizing, but that's purely because you're going to want to open up that rosette crimp on the rosette, or rosette type blanks. Otherwise, once you're done and you got it reamed and you've got it trimmed and reamed, then you also still should do a full case resize, top to bottom. No matter what it is, 762 by 39, 223, 556, 308, 30-06, I don't care. Now, this is virgin brass. And again, I'm going to remind you, before you do all of this, make sure you take out, you've usually got a little hex screw there. Undo those pins and take out your depriming pin, because you want to use the primers that are already in those brass cases, right? You want to keep those. Otherwise, everything works the same, and a full case resize would be, preferred. Now, what that means is that the case is going to be brought to spec for that chambering by doing that. When you load the round and you pull the trigger, now your case is fire-formed to your weapon. And as we've said many times, if you are trying to be more precise, you want to use that brass for that rifle from now on. You want to try and line it up. So if you're on the range and you're shooting, especially if you're by yourself, this isn't hard. First of all, police your brass on the ground and clean things up. Know where your point of impact is for your brass extraction, and lay down a tarp or lay down a poncho, whatever you want to do. Preferably something not too fancy, because it's going to, if it's hot, if you get plastic, it's going to go right through, depending on how many rounds you fired and how fast. Don't forget that. But bottom line is that you want to be able to mark the brass in the box for that rifle, the M16A1, A2, or forgive me, AR-15A1, A2, the M4 knockoff, whatever pistol. I don't care what it is you're using. As far as whatever, if it's 223/556, or if it's 308 or 9mm or 45, try to line it up to the weapon it was used in. You will have a significant advantage in reloading, which you want to initiate, you want to take advantage of. Okay. So, otherwise, hopefully, I think we've touched on that enough. And I keep coming back to that Jorgensen rifle, because that is a nice weapon. Already in the taillights, other things to do. Another thing here real quick is over at Classic Firearms. I haven't mentioned them for a little while, but they've been kind of cleaned out. But not completely, but everybody's got their goodies that comes in. So don't poo-poo them and leave them behind. They always have their deal of the day, and they also have drawings, so they're giving away guns. Now, I am going to point out again, I had 3 different questions about some of the surplus guns, and the Carcano is one of them. And yes, I know, they're not outrageously expensive. There is some ammo, no surplus ammo pretty much available for that. I have probably a few thousand rounds of real 6.5 World War II and a ton of 7.35. I've got 7.35 rifles I paid $7, $8, $11 a piece 4 years ago. Can't afford not to have them on the shelf, and they're stuck away in caches all over the state. The big thing about this is, again, if you're going to be even thinking about buying these guns, always do research. How do they work? Again, the reason, the 6.5 Carcano is especially in the folding bayonet model that they're showing, the carabiner model, is a very handy little pack rifle, a great little stash gun. It really is, and it's so crude, simple, and it's not really crude, it's just simple, and it works. But it doesn't work as anything other than a single-shot rifle if you do not have the Mannlicher stripper clips that go in the Carcano. Okay, if you have a Carcano right now, and I got a can of ammo that Grandpa bought. Okay. Do you have any of these funny little things that look like clamps? They're like rectangular, and looks like cartridges could go in the middle of them. If you think about it, they were brass or steel. Were there any of those around? Oh yeah, he's got them on a little stringer here, like fish. He's got a hanger with it looks like about 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Okay, don't lose those. Now, if you got military ammo, the ammo came from the factory, from the arsenal, with each 6-round stripper clip, 3 of them loaded in a box. When you opened up the box, they were ready to pull right out and jam right into the top of the weapon. You opened up the bolt, pulled it all the way back. If there was a stripper clip that was used, if it didn't drop out, that wasn't a problem. When you took the next stripper clip, no matter what it was, Lebel, Carcano, Steyr, when you push down the new one, it pushes out the old one out the bottom of the weapon. Now, nowadays, you better grab it because you don't have any more, okay? But otherwise, the ammunition, when you get any of the military stuff, they come with stripper clips unless somebody's ripped open the box and stolen them to sell them separately, which people do, okay? That's sad, but it happens. Anyway, that's the problem with the Carcano. It is also true. I love the Steyr. Steyr straight pull is the old Steyr 95s are a wonderful weapon. I used to carry one all over the place. And I carried it in the old 8x50, not the 8x56R. The little short stroke 8x50s, I could get Herder's ammo for about 4 or 5 cents a round years ago. And it's about the equivalent to probably 30-30 in terms of performance. So it was a nice little pack gun to carry. It had a really short stroke report. It's a straight pull rifle, so literally all you do is just pull the bolt straight back, jam the bolt straight forward, get aggressive, you won't break the gun, and boom, it goes off again, once you pull the trigger. But you still need those stripper clips. The Lebels, a lot of you guys, I won't say any more than just, yes, I know, some of you guys have whole inheritance collections. Well, you need to make sure that underneath each of those guns, go through your inventory and find all the stripper clips and make sure they're not separated from the guns they belong to. You need to come up with a system for that, because otherwise it's not that they aren't deadly, it's just that they're single-shot weapons if you don't have the man-lyncher stripper clip, okay? Another thing, hold on here. See, now, why am I having okay, I believe you. Okay, hold on here. There's a number of other Enfields and stuff out there too. That's another thing I've had a lot of questions on. The Enfields are pressing towards 500. It's tough to pay that kind of money on them, but if you've got a lot of 303 and you've already been buying them, it's not that bad, especially, and again, in terms of what it costs for the stuff that's sitting around out there. Would it be my first choice? If you gave me an Enfield, I know how to use it, okay? But no, it would be a good gun. But there's others that would be more reliable in terms of ammunition resurfacing right now. And again, for $500, $450, I can get a brand new, and that's where the argument is here. When you start pressing $400+ guys, I can go to Classic Firearms and you buy that Enfield, or I can go and buy any one of a dozen different bolt-action modern guns with a scope on them. I'm going to tell you, I'd buy the gun with the scope on it because I get more gun for the same amount of money. Plus, I got it in a caliber that right now is still readily available. Now, I have a lot of Enfields. I'm not bragging, but I do have a lot of Enfields. I'm even looking at there's a package deal that's down the road if somebody wanted to be a gun builder where you could put a whole bunch of 303 Enfields back together for nothing. Problem is ammunition. There isn't any surplus in any quantity. What was there just got eaten up in the first part of this big wave for the gun ammunition grab, for people grabbing everything. So it's not my first choice right now. I'd rather you get like one of those 243s or 30-06s, or take your pick, whatever caliber floats your boat, and you'd get it with a scope, so it'd be pretty good. Hey, we have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
We got Ed here. Want to remind people next week, Wednesday, and from Wednesday to Friday, so basically until next the Monday after, we won't be live on this time slot. We're going to take some time during the holiday to meet with some people and take care of a few things.
And as a matter of fact, again, a reminder, we are always looking for broadcasters, but also if somebody wants to help out in that way at some point down the road, you might want to think about if you want to be a rebroadcaster that takes over operations on occasion, which is something we need more of anyways. So just a heads up. I know we got a few people that were interested before, so if need be. And again, Ed, I'll tell you what, I got you right there. I know you're in the ballpark.
I gotta step away, Dad.
Oh, go right ahead. And okay. And we got the mic is open. There we go. Anyway, a couple of things here with regard to Classic Firearms. Yes, they do have a lot of other stuff of mixed bag right now. Somebody's going, isn't there anything cheap? Okay, no, I haven't seen anything cheap for a while now. Guys, that was 6 months ago if you were listening to this program when I told you go out and spend some money. If you had, like I rub it in nowadays, there's a bunch of people, guys, you could have bought AR-15 kits. We pointed them out when they were available at Palmetto or over at Centerfire Systems for $235 and $245. You realize what you could do with that kit right now? If you had taken whatever dollars you had before the coronavirus and spent it on those, you could dump two of them and pay for everything else you wanted to keep now. Or at least, again, for every two that you want to keep, you could sell two and pay for all of them. You know what I mean? Do the math. It would make it so that it would be comfortable. Nobody could complain. You can't say, you're just spending all our money on guns. No, dear, I just got all our money back, and there's a little extra, and by the way, I still have all these guns. How did you do that? Well, it's called prior proper planning, preventing piss poor performance. I thought ahead. So anyway, I do rub it in to certain people because they had the resources and they actually could have stepped up and it would have made sense. Now, $800, $900, $1,300, $1,500 for an AR-15, and it's like, and some of those were already there anyway at that price. You can spend any amount of money on weapons, and especially on each gun category that you want. How much do you want to spend? There's somebody there that'll take your money. Trust me on that one. So, again, personal choice right now, probably a manual bolt gun. If it was a manual bolt gun, something in, again, the lower-end Remingtons, there's still a few of those out there. I do like the PTR 91s, as I've said many times, but they've been up and down in availability. For the moment, there are some of the PTR 91s in the GIR model. The advantage of that, there's tons of magazines out there, and they're still the cheapest 308 mag available in the market. Other than they're just a little cheaper for the HK91 mags than the SETME mags. And most of the guns will take both the SETME and the PTR, and the G3 mags, which are HK91 mags. Then after that, again, ARs I could build. Like I said, I'm looking at one here. It's a Colt Firearms M4 for $1,400. Well, for $1,400, I've already shown you could go over to Centerfire Systems and then go over to Bear Creek Arsenal, and you could put 3 guns together for the price of that one. 3 ARs is much better than 1 AR. When I can take 3 people and tell them to shoot you, and if they're very patient and not spraying and praying, I get your nice little Colt $1,400 rifle, and now I have a real fancy rifle to go along with the other 3 rifles that we already have in service, et cetera, because I'm not going to be playing fair, just like everybody brags they're not going to be playing fair, right? But if you all focus on that problem child, that target, and everybody puts a bullet down range and focuses because you've trained them to, you're going to be amazed at how successful you are. So, and again, that's the mission, that's the goal, that should be your objective. Another thing here real quick, I mentioned Centerfire, and I saw a piece today, and I really didn't. I didn't even make a comment on the video. The couple of younger guys, they're highly motivated. They're building actually a semi-automatic AK-50 caliber, a real AK action. Well, guys, that already was done by the Russians. Okay, the Russians also made a big butt SKS. We've talked about this many times. Literally 10-round magazine, the whole 9 yards, but in 50 caliber. These Semenov semi-automatic guns were massive. The Russians love 50 caliber guns. They have had them in the inventory since before World War II. Guess what? Since World War II, they had cranked out model after model after model. They were constantly doing research. They did make adaptive models that they selectively tested for a period of time. If they built it, they kept it. They never threw them out. And they made a big butt AK. First they made the Semenov, the SKS. Then they made a big butt AK variant. Another company that did this were the Hakim 50 calibers. Now, I don't know what happened to them. It's one of the things where you got so much time on your hands, so much time available. But guys, back in the 90s, the Hakim 50 caliber was basically a big butt AK, just like the Stoner rifle was a side magazine fed semi-auto. Anybody remember the Stoner that came out in the 90s? Same guys, same Stoner. But in addition to that, you had the Barretts. Well, the Hakims, the 50 caliber Hakim, was a big butt AK action. The magazines were magazine specific to the gun. It was down at Knob Creek quite a bit, but I have no idea what happened to the company or how they fell off the scopes. The gun was successful. Needless to say, Barrett was more successful because they got all the government contracts. But the weapon design itself was easy to maintain, quick and easy to use, just like the Barrett's actually very easy to use by comparison. Both of these guns were paralleling each other in competition. Barrett had a real edge because of time. They've been doing it for a lot longer. But the Stoner gun, another one, side magazine, kind of like the FG rifle for the paratroopers in World War II, German paratroopers. It again looks like that gun on steroids. Very successful design. Everybody that fired loved the lack of felt recoil by the nature of the combination of the gas system and the compensator that was built for it. There's a lot of other half-inch guns that are out there, and all of them, I don't know that any of them, maybe a handful might have been stolen by the bat faggots or whatever during the process of gun raids or whatever. But for the most part, those guns are out there and floating around because the people who had them just very quietly took them back over into the woods and they're safe. They're decent weapons. So if you run into anything like this, we just had somebody pick up a Stoner, what was it, a month ago? About the time we had a funeral, a little funeral issue, and somebody was stopping in and said, hey, somebody's got a 50 caliber available. Lo and behold, it turned out that it was a Stoner. That was jumped on right away, and it's safe and secure now. But they are out there. So it may be a different gun you're not familiar with, but it doesn't mean it's inferior to the Barretts and the other stuff that you see. Always keep that in mind. Barrett's not the only horse in the stable there, and there are a number of other 50 caliber companies that have come and gone that have built phenomenal weapons. Purely was just the idea that the owner passed away in many cases. That's why I'm wondering about the Hakim rifles, the Hakim 50s. They did very, very well for themselves, and in fact, they were going to go into competition with them in long-range shooting. So if you run into something, let me know if you see anything interesting laying around out there. The other thing here real quick, the reason I want to go over to centerfire, somebody was asking me about these. Okay, I see what it is. On the front page, there is a Beretta AR-70-90 parts kit. No, that is not compatible with the AR-15 except for the caliber. But it is a neat little rifle. It just, well, again, doesn't come with a barrel. Looks like they chopped the barrel or whatever. It's $400 for the kit, but I don't know if anybody is making an upper or not. This is a Beretta AR-70-90 parts kit without receiver, barrel, or magazine. Woo-hoo! Doesn't even come with a magazine. That's nice. But if you actually, well, if you wanted to work at it, you could. But no, that's, again, $400, but better spent somewhere else. If you're a person that really is deep into manufacturing, yeah, you could mess with that because that's not a bad price for a kit. Not in these days.
A heavily incomplete kit, though.
Yeah, it's still again. I don't know which mag. I would assume again it's a proto-specific mag for the AR-70. I can't remember if that one had a polymer when it started and went to steel. I believe that one did. It started out, that was the big deal with it, kind of like several of the other, Steyr systems and whatever, is it was a polymer see-through magazine, but it was brittle. I mean, it looks cool, but if you dropped it enough, it broke. So they went to steel almost as quickly as they had come up with the polymag for that. Now, otherwise, there are a bunch of other cool things at centerfire systems, so don't get me wrong, and everybody's got their goodies. Always check their ammunition, always. You never know what you're going to run into. I have no idea what's there right now, but you might want to, again, go through centerfire rifle ammo or pistol ammunition has been a sneak peek thing. I would think that the next thing we're going to see is a wave of the exotics again, like the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 450 straight case, whatever it is. There's a couple of them out there that it's just like you can feel when they're going to come out. And so you're probably going to see everybody getting a little bit of this stuff all at once. It's not going to be useful to everyone, but if you do have it, well, grab what you can while you can, because it definitely is worthwhile. Another thing here, especially with shotguns, I know somebody else has been pointing out, well, there's a whole flurry of these semi-automatic bullpup shotguns. I'm not familiar. Nobody has seen enough of them. They were allowed to come into the country. They've not been here that long. The big thing is that they aren't cheap, but they're not outrageously priced. They're right in that middle ground. Problem is magazines, number one, unless they were smart and they used a Sega mag, which if I were building it, I would, only because there's tons of Sega companies, Sega parts companies, and Sega inventory out there that nobody can do anything with because there's no guns coming in. You only can buy, most people will only buy so many mags. So the advantage is that the mags and the drums would work. But I don't think that's what they did. Now, these are Turkish guns, I am pretty sure. And they do come in a number of different configurations. In fact, it's the fear guns. Here it is, I found one. The Garesar, or Garesar, take your pick, G-A-R-A-Y, Garesar, Fear 109, Fear. Oh, that's not my best choice of name for a weapon. It could be I'm fearing it because when I put my face to it, I'm not sure if I'm going to lose it, right? Don't put your face up in that. Boom. Oh, I told him not to do that. Oh my God! Another guy lost his face to the gun. No, that's not your best. It's like a SCAR rifle. SCAR. That just implies that it does things it shouldn't, and I end up with scars. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind with me, SCAR. Oh, once you shoot this gun, everybody will know you used it. Is that what you're telling me? So anyway, in this case, it is a bullpup. There are two variants in the bullpup, at least that I've seen, but nobody I know has shot them. So it's catches, it's a roll of the dice. In theory, if they're marketing them, they should work, and they are $425 a gun. You can buy almost two pump guns for the price of that. In fact, if you can find any of the semi-autos, especially in a nice little hand-me-down 1100, you should be able to probably buy at least one used and then still have lots of money for ammo to get an 1100, or take your pick, whatever else is out there. So it's a personal flavor choice thing. The bullpup designs are useful for stowage, needless to say, close-in quarters while still ending up with a full-length tube, full-length barrel. That's a nice thing. But as far as the cost goes, and again, also firing pins, extractors, and ejectors, because that's, it ain't the razor, it's the blades. You got a really fine weapon, but it's sitting over there in the corner of the hut because it broke an extractor and we just can't get them. Something to think about there. Now, as a cash gun, this is where the balance is. If you didn't care, because I'm going to use this until I strip enough enemy dead I'm carrying what they're carrying, you wouldn't worry about it. So there's where the balance is. The big thing is, again, if you can buy a gun like that, you immediately want to talk to them about where can I get spares? Where can I get more goodies? I need stuff that matches what goes on this gun. Where can I get it? If you don't get a straightforward answer on it, I would steer clear of the gun. It's that simple. Oh, I'm sure that you can get them somewhere. Oh, that doesn't help me. That's not what I asked. Okay, so there's another rule. That's a basic rule when it comes to looking at a lot of the stuff that's out there that's unique and new. If it's super unique and new, it's also harder than hell to find parts for, and that's not going to be good for you if you're fighting a conflict. Next, and almost to the top here, a lot of questions about the different carry systems in terms of slings again, and I can't emphasize, find the guru of your choice. Mostly I don't use slings on any of the weapons that I have. If I attach a sling, it's for transport. And again, what I do there is take the time and put a decent military or traditional American pattern sling on the weapon, only because I'm going to use it for arm support. I'm going to actually use it the way I was taught to use it back in the day. Otherwise, we don't use a sling because it hooks on stuff. In fact, it might cause obstructions. A lot of times, we'll even take the sling rings off the weapons if we can. A lot of your commercial ones you can. On the other hand, if it's a bolt gun, again, the sling is part of the integrated support system to lock that gun into the shoulder. So that's where the balance is again. Otherwise, it is nice to have hands-free capability while keeping the weapon close. You've seen the arguments for it. I don't have a problem with that. But again, like I've said many times on the air here, if I'm carrying a weapon, it's always touching me. I always know where it is. It's never over there somewhere, ever. It's never away from me, never. Yes, I sleep with it. It stays right with me. Why? Well, I'm at war. The enemy always figures they're going to do some snoopy secret squirrel crap like you always see in all the BS movies. They drop from the air. They hit the ground. They all got night vision on. And nobody would ever expect this anymore. It's like we're all totally, dim-witted. We have to turn our brains off. Wow, if I were setting up security for an area in any remote location, the first thing I'd do is dig in and put all my security out of sight. Then I'd have one or two guys that would be moving around to be like, unfortunately, bait, so everybody takes their turn on that. And then when they come in and do their sneaky, slidey secret squirrel, you start putting bullets up their hind end, and the very special people aren't so special in their corpses. See how that works? But you're not supposed to think that way. We're all big dummies. We would never think to do that. We're dummies. Don't you know that? Yeah, right. So anyway, with regard to... let's see. Last but not least is carry systems. Somebody was asking about shot shell bags. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Number one, we're almost out of time here. There are a number of five shot pockets that were made by the Donut of Destruction for the War Department that are leather or canvas. They're really cool. They work. They have a little ringlet internally. Some, not all. The MP model that's in leather fits right on a standard belt. I like using those if I'm doing, say, if I were carrying a shotgun as a sidebar and I want to keep it out of sight. I would carry those on my belt for the longest time. I used to have 4 or 5 of them on a belt that I'd have to, what I actually would do is lace them through the pants and they'd be integrated onto my belt. The shotgun is short enough, although not a cut-off shotgun it's not a sawed-off shotgun, never. But a short tube Ithaca, for instance, is great, and 20-incher. And it's out of sight, up underneath the coat, or it can be, carried but kept close to the body, so it's not obvious. The rest of your handgun ammunition is dispersed, with pouches, mags, and pockets, along with more shot shells in every pocket you got too. Don't ever forget that. You got pockets for a reason. Well, put more ammo everywhere. Disperse it. It's not as obvious. You don't need to have a chipmunk cheek. You don't have a pocket that's got looks like you got a pimple on your leg. Oh my God, is that going to burst any minute? Instead, spread it out. There's no reason not to. You can still stuff one pocket like that if you want. Let them wonder. Let them worry. But the other option is sling. We'd mentioned a sling. A lot of guys like to have the stash guns with a sling purely because it's an onboard bandolier. So you have 25 or 20 rounds locked right onto the sling, 5 rounds on the stock, literally on a stock carrier. And there's all kinds of other ideas. Now, myself, I've used a bunch of the hanger systems where you have the flop-down pocket pouches. You have them snapped up in place and they're folded closed when you're not using them. When you do finally need them, you pop the 2 snaps. Actually, they're hangers, and it drops down, and all the shells are accessible within, easy reach. Now, remember, one nice thing about a shotgun, everything has an advantage and a disadvantage. One nice thing about a shotgun, it's a forever magazine. You can be loading the shotgun from underneath while you're getting ready to use it, and you're not changing the condition of the gun. That is a significant, big advantage in that he's only got a 5-shot shotgun. Yeah, well, I fired 2 rounds. We took cover. Bob's returning fire. The moment I've got any rest, I put 2 more rounds right back in the tube, and yeah, I got a 5-shot shotgun. And one in the tube, by the way. So congratulations, I'm really not where you thought I was. You have to constantly be working and disciplining yourself to that. A lot of these competition shotgun shooters do it all the time. Something you need to watch. Remember, if you have it in your brain pan, you can mimic what somebody does. And now you may not be perfect until you develop personal skills. If you have it between your ears as something you physically have seen, it's amazing how much you will be able to mimic and catch on to. Practice, practice, practice will make the difference. That's where you develop skill. And then you become a better performer where you need to be, which is especially important in this day and age. So one of the other issues, I doubt it. They probably don't have those in stock, guys. Somebody was asking, do they have the Mausers? I don't know. That's a good question. I kind of slipped my mind there for a minute. Let's go over to rifles and see if they do. One of the other things about the shot shell is, yes, even using a dump bag full of shells. The bottomless pit bag, okay? That is not a bad idea. There's all kinds of variations on that. You can buy a surplus or commercial bags that will work just fine for the purpose. And that's another way to carry volume. If you're willing to carry it in the militia, we aren't going to restrict you from carrying anything. If you want to pull a towed artillery piece behind you, if you felt comfortable with that, double plus good thumbs up and let's go. It's just that simple. So again, you need to pick and select the carry and support system that matches the weapon that you're committed to. And if you're going to do this, more places where you can stash ammo are always good. With shot shell ammo, or for that matter, any of your ammunition, some should be on your combat load, most actually, but you can also put workstations and transport stations on your backpacks. And again, if I'm carrying a full combat, if I'm doing BDU pants with a BDU blouse, with a field jacket, and with again, piss pot and gloves, guys, every pocket should have some ammunition in it, okay, just to disperse the weight and spread it out so it's not all lumped up in one place. But every pocket, you got 6 pockets, well, guess what? You're really not using those butt cheek pockets for much anything, and it'll keep a couple of rounds there handy, each one, so do the math. By the time you're done with 4 pockets on the field jacket, 4 pockets on the battle blouse, 6 pockets on the pants. Now, the reason, too, is that, remember, every time you pull the trigger, that's, so much, shell, munition, pellet going down range, and they are bulky. So it sounds like you're doing a lot, but remember, it's bigger. So you're going to need more. Because every time you pull the trigger, you're missing another piece, and you don't have a video game reset to operate off from. Anyway, we are at the top here, although you could have that Chinese coolie behind you dragging the little rickshaw behind full of ammo. That would work. It's probably not going to be in your venue, though. So we are at the top. We should be hearing the music. And for all of you, it is Weapons Wednesday. Your mind is your first best weapon. Take the time, square the technology away. What I just mentioned was over at, again, centerfiresystems.com. They have the plum crazy lowers still. They went up by $10. $140 instead of $130. How do you like that price creep? For the plum crazy complete lowers in plastic. You go over to Bear Creek and get a complete upper. You can build a gun right now for about $430 to $440 an AR. 2 steps. Go to Centerfire or go to Classic. They both have they might be cheaper at Classic by $10 now. Who knows? But then you go over to Bear Creek, pick up the upper of your choice. Congratulations, you got an AR-15. That'll work out just fine for you. And we are at the top. I know that I might have to announce that, but for all of you out there, again, let's see, libertytreeradio.4mg.com. If you are interested in the red, blue, green sites, we still have some available. There are very few left at the wholesaler, so I'm going to do this one more time. If you want them, we do have them, and we can do quantity. Go over to www.libertytreeradio.4mg.com. Go to the donate any amount key. When you get there, that can either be the one on the right or the one on the top. What you want to do is include quantity. How many do you want? Needless to say, what? Red, blue, green dot. You can put Axion, red, blue, green. Axion, red, blue, green. And then in the notation section, not just in the body they have you fill out, in the notes section where it comes to me, we need your mailing address, where you want the sites to go to. If you're not familiar with it, it's the Axion red, blue, green dot site. It is a very simple design. It is a all-metal construction. Everybody's picked them up so far happy. One of our friends, I believe in Montana, should have 3 of them coming his way right now. And again, we can do any quantity this time. Now, if I stop doing that and I tell you that we can't, you'll know. But for now, if you need a larger amount, we can still do that because I can still access them from the wholesaler. The price has stayed the same so far,
hey,
but
I'm sorry, I'm running late. Craig's not going to be up live tonight, and I don't have a replay ready to go for him. I was just watching the news with Shelley, and one of the things, we're down in this COVID hotspot here in Texas, and last week I was showing her, it's like Mopac out of Michigan is a company that's providing these freezer morgue trucks. These refurbished freezer trucks, most of them are refurbished. They're charging millions of dollars to these communities that they bring them into. It's a shell company. The corporate holding firm that has it is the guy in Michigan who ran the fantasy sports ring that was rigged. He's the one that's running this Mopac thing, and they just announced, we need Mopac trailers down here too. So
that means he's paying off people. He's sliding big brown envelopes.
Yes,
He's turned.
They said Mopac, Speedy.
Yeah, that character is a shyster from the get-go. He was busted twice for other activities, by the way.
Mopac. The executive order from the mayor down here specifically says Mopac. So we knew this was coming, and it's like it's ridiculous stuff. And of course, right after that, what are they blaming? This current surge in COVID deaths and spreading on. It's the family units, it's family gatherings, it's small gatherings. It has nothing to do, with people going to the gas station or going to that. Although, another thing, and I'm going to warn people because this is actually, it's Biden's talked about this. I've heard it now from a couple of different officials here in Lubbock that have talked about it. We've heard it from different governors around the United States. They want to ban public restrooms. That's going to be next thing that's... Actually, one of Biden's advisors is talking about making it a requirement for people to wear adult diapers because COVID can be spread through...
we got to put a bullet in their ass now. We're just going to have to shoot the son of a bitch. Excuse me, the buggers. I'm serious.
I'm a little ticked off because I just heard Lester Holt do this whole little spiel on, we're in this together. And it's like, oh, really? Are we now?
Well, again, Bidenite, as far as I'm concerned, whatever it is that starts this war is going to be fine by me. As far as, we don't have anything great with Trump. I'm sorry, people, for those of you who are rah Trump. No, we don't. But we know exactly what their agenda is for the fast track with the communists that they're trying to shove down everybody's throat, and they need to be shot. I mean, they're just going to be. Somebody's going to step up, going to be stupid. It's like coming at you for the holidays. Everybody bring guns and shovels. Everybody who's coming to the family get-together, bring a gun, bring a shovel. That's how everybody needs to act and treat this, unfortunately, this holiday weekend. The holidays that are coming up. Forgive me, it's not just a weekend. We got Thanksgiving and Christmas. But because those are Christian holidays, these stinking Jewish pieces of trash are going to do everything they can to spit on them, and especially with their occult buddies. They ride right side by side with the Satan worshipers, and they're the same ilk and filth. So for everybody out there, you can see the writing on the wall. Anyway, so can we. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire is on the run.
And we are, as always, on the march every day. Kill them all.
Well, for everybody, we're going to take off. Craig is not going to be live. We're going to have Craig from Bid Knowledge, though, here in a minute, and then we will be back at 8 o'clock for the evening Intel Report. God bless. Bye-bye.
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.